my name is Mary, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the 10-year challenge book tag, which was developed by Rincey at Rincey Reads. Many of you have probably seen the meme challenge that is going around to post a picture of yourself in 2009 next to a picture of yourself in 2019, so everyone can see how much you have grown. However, I do like the idea of doing this one slightly more because I do think my reading interests have changed quite a bit, and I think that's kind of fun to talk about. Obviously, this was developed by Rincey at Rincey Reads. I would link her original video in the comments down below. The first book asks, what was your favorite book in 2009? I should say that I did not have Goodreads back then, so I don't have a super accurate log, but I'm pretty sure I can reverse engineer and say that in 2009 was the first time that I read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I had to read it for an English class. If it wasn't that year, it was 2010, so we might be fudging it a little bit. But it is a fabulous book. It was one of my favorite books for a great many years after I read it. Prior to that, my favorite book was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, but Jane Eyre was the one that really got me interested in reading 19th century classics, and especially in Gothic literature. So that one definitely was my favorite, if not in 2009, circa 2009. Number 2 asks, what is your favorite book in 2019? The answer to that is Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. I don't actually have my copy of The Goldfinch today because I lent it to my housemate, because after we saw the movie together, I insisted she read it. Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch follows a young boy named Theo Decker, who, after a tragic event happens in the first chapter of the book, a museum that he is in suffers a terrorist attack and his mother is killed. It follows his life after that as he struggles without a moral compass and with a painting that he accidentally stole. It is amazing. I think it has wonderful meditations on what it means to be a good person, but also what it means to be a person and have a connection with art, which are two of my favorite themes to read in literature. I am blessed that I read that this year, and I have read it again since then, and I will probably continue to read it. It's a book that I think values that kind of meditative rereading experience. What was your least favorite book in 2009? Again, I'm trying to backwards map what books I read that year. It might have also been an English book that I read. Probably, if we read it that year, which I think we might have, it might have been The Taming of the Shrew, William Shakespeare's play. I think that teaching that play to children is an act of violence. I hate that play. I hate everything about it. It makes me very angry. I don't care if it's a social satire. Oh, it makes me mad. I think that we read that in that year, either that or in one of the years following that very shortly after. So that would definitely be at the top of my list. However, if you asked me in 2009 what my least favorite book would have been, it was either that or it was Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, which I harbored an enormous degree of animosity towards for reasons that I understand now why I did. It was just kind of a way of like making myself seem different and also protecting my beloved vampires. However, I don't currently feel that way. If you like Twilight, it's perfectly fine. Number 4 asks, what was your least favorite book in 2019? I read quite a few books this year that I wasn't as fond of, however fewer than I had thought that I would, so that's a blessing. However, the one that continues to stick out in my mind as an affront to everything that I hold dear is The Tears of Eros by Georges Bataille. The Tears of Eros follows, it's a philosophy book, so it doesn't follow anything. Anyway, it's his argument about why humans find death and suffering erotic, and which is a concept that I'm kind of on board with, which I think most people would agree that sometimes people do that. However, it is the dumbest book I think I have ever read. It shows absolutely no understanding of history, it shows no understanding of art, it is absolute drivel from top to tail, and the reason that I list that as my least favorite book is because there are people who still expect me to take it seriously and take Georges Bataille seriously as a philosopher, which I'm not doing. Not anymore. Number 5 asks, what is a book published in 2009 that you still want to read? So to do this, I went on Goodreads, I found a list of top books published in 2009, and I looked for one that I had already marked as to read. So I wouldn't say this is top of my priority list, however, it's still something that I was interested in, and that is Nothing to Envy, Ordinary Lives in North Korea by Barbara Demick. This is a book about the lives of North Korean citizens, especially in 2009 when there was quite a bit of mystery of what it was actually like to live in one of the few communist countries on Earth and under such an extraordinary dictatorship that has almost a media blackout and is extremely not well known. Earlier this year, I read In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park, which is a memoir of a North Korean woman. I wish I had read the two of them side by side, however, I'm not going to regret reading them separately. I think it's still worth reading, and again, not top of my priority list, but something that I'm still keeping in mind for the future. Number 6 asks, what is a book published in 2019 that you want to read before 2020? I just filmed my December 2019 TBR, so I don't know, because I don't think anything on there is front listed. I think it's all backlist. However, if I had to kind of stir the pot and decide what I want to read, I think The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, definitely. That came out this year, and it's on my list of things that I want to read this winter. If not December, then definitely in either January or February. I loved Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus when I read it as a much younger person, and I'm looking forward to delving back into her absolutely beautiful writing. I don't even really know what it's about, and I'm kind of okay with that. I don't want anything to deter me from reading something by an author that I quite respect and quite like, so we'll see what happens. Number 7 asks, what is a genre that you used to read a lot of that you don't read a lot of anymore? And my answer is fantasy. So I used to be a fantasy fiend. Either high fantasy or paranormal urban fantasy were definitely my speed. I absolutely loved them. I would read very little else, and I almost regret that in a way, because I wish I had broadened my literary horizons a little bit earlier. Nowadays, I don't read terribly much fantasy at all. I think I just burned myself out on the genre. There's a couple that I'm reading. I'm still going through A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. There's a couple of things that I'm still reading, but hopefully in the future I find more fantasy that doesn't have the same tropes that I've been reading for well over a decade. Number 8, what is a new genre that you've discovered since 2009? As I said, I read pretty much all fantasy in 2009, so everything is new to me. Memoir is new to me. I never thought I would be interested in memoir, but now I cannot get enough of a good memoir, especially by somebody from a different country than I am. Definitely literary fiction, just generally speaking, which sounds kind of silly, but apparently I'm now really into it. I'm very much more into magical realism than I am into fantasy these days, especially anything that gives me 100 Years of Solitude vibes. Absolutely adore that. So there's definitely stuff that is new to me, and I'm grateful for that, because I don't know what my life would be like if I just continued to read fantasy. I think I would drive myself mad. Number 9 asks, what is a reading or book habit you are hoping to leave behind in the previous decade? I think for me, forcing myself to read and finish books that I have no interest in. I want to be a lot looser about letting myself just DNF things, because every once in a while, every 6 months or so, I have one of these crises of, oh, I'm 25, I probably only have 50 years to live. How many books is that? How many books am I going to read? And the way that I think about it now is there's not enough time on this planet for me to be forcing myself to read books that I don't like. So I am letting myself DNF things left, right, and center from now on. I just want to read books that I like and not spend any time on books that I don't. So we'll see how that goes on BookTube, because there is something to be said for a nice angry rant review. But I don't know. Let me know how you feel about DNFing in the comments down below. Are you really open to DNFing, or do you try to give books a solid chance before you DNF them? Number 10 asks, what is a new reading goal or habit you want to create in the upcoming decade? For me, I would love to be more strategic about my monthly TBRs to make sure that I'm not letting any of my lists of things that I want to eventually read, I don't want any of those to fall by the wayside. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think what I might just do is draw up a list of things for myself that I want to make sure I'm reading every month. Not specific books, but types of books. So I want to read a medieval classic every month and a 19th century classic every month. I want to read nonfiction classic every month. I want to read, international literature every month, and just make that kind of list, and then whatever I happen to read that falls into that category, I'll do that. But I do want to be more strategic about that, and I might post that in an upcoming January 2020 reading goals video. We'll see. Alright, so those are all of the questions in the 2009 and 2019 reading tag. I am much more pleased with the way that I read now. I read a lot more. I don't make excuses about not reading. I read more diversely, and I love reading so much, and I'm so glad of that, because 2009 I think was the start of me not reading quite as much as I want to be reading, and now I'm on that upswing, which is quite good. Try not to panic about the fact that it's like a decade of not reading as many books as I could have been reading. That's perfectly fine. If you have done this tag, please let me know down below, or just answer the questions down below. I think that would be fun. Again, I will link the original video as well in my own comments. Thank you very much for watching. Bye!